any time. Under Committee Rule 4F, any oral opening statements at hearings are limited to the chairman and the ranking minority member. I now recognize myself for an opening statement. Today, the Subcommittee on Energy and Minerals Resources will host an oversight hearing to examine the future of the offshore oil and gas leasing program. I'd like to begin by thanking our witnesses for being here to discuss the future of the offshore oil and gas leasing program. Representing the Iron Range of Northeast Minnesota, I feel strongly that we must safeguard American jobs and economic growth through responsible development of our natural resources, whether it be the taconite and critical minerals in the district I represent or oil and gas on the outer continental shelf. The actions taken by the Biden administration with regard to the offshore leasing program have hindered responsible development and made us more dependent on OPEC and adversarial nations for the energy resources our nation requires. The Biden administration has not allowed more than a year to pass without finalizing an offshore 5-year leasing program and has refused to begin the planning process for lease sales in 2024. By ignoring federal law for the first time in history, this administration has threatened economic prosperity and energy security. Such actions have forced businesses to invest elsewhere and led to increased oil prices and risks for producers, which adversely affect American consumers. The Biden administration is taking unprecedented inaction, as we will discuss today, if the Department of the Interior does not take the necessary steps now to begin the NEPA process and begin to initiate an offshore oil and gas lease sale in 2024, the United States will fail to hold an offshore lease sale involving the Gulf of Mexico for the first time in over 60 years. This will have incredible implications for our nation for years to come. While the global oil market thrives, it is disheartening to witness the absence of investment opportunities here in the United States. Investments seem to flow to distant shores, benefiting countries like Guyana, Brazil, Venezuela, Russia, and OPEC nations, while our own rich reserves are neglected, along with our workers. I am not from a coastal state. However, I understand the importance of certainty in the offshore oil and gas industry. Inland states and their citizens have played crucial roles in shaping America's energy landscape, and they continue to contribute to and benefit from offshore oil and gas development. Inland America innovation and leadership have long contributed to developments on the outer continental shelf. One remarkable example is Robert S. Kerr of Oklahoma, who recognized the significance of offshore drilling for our nation's energy needs and pioneered the first offshore drilling platform known as the Jacket in the early 1940s. Under the Gulf of Mexico Energy Security Act, GOMESA, offshore oil and gas development has generated significant revenues to Gulf-producing states, $353 million in fiscal year 2022 and $1.65 billion throughout the life of the program. Offshore revenues also benefit communities across the nation through the Land and Water Conservation Fund, which received more than $125 million in fiscal year 2022. And just last Friday, the Department of the Interior announced nearly $5 million in distributions to my home state of Minnesota from the Land and Water Conservation Fund. These funds will support important recreation and conservation projects throughout Minnesota, thanks in large part to our offshore oil and gas production. If the Biden administration continues to block offshore leasing, these funds will begin to dry up. According to National Ocean Industries Association, there are approximately 345,000 workers in the offshore industry supply chain, and salaries for those who work in the oil and gas sector average over $51 per hour, per the Bureau of Labor Statistics, May 2023 data. Meanwhile, during the same time period, average private sector income across the United States was less than 2/3 of that, only $33 per hour. These are good-paying jobs that are supporting families and enabling the American dream. But the Biden administration would rather forego these good-paying jobs and ship them to our adversarial nations overseas. And yet again, the Biden administration's motto is anywhere but America, any worker but American. In light of the challenges posed by the Biden administration, it is imperative to underscore the significance of offshore investments and their potential impact on our society, national security, and future economic growth. Without offshore leasing, our coastal communities are vulnerable to job loss, increased costs at home and at the pump, and the impact of hurricanes, for which oil and gas revenues play a vital role in preparation and mitigation efforts. Instead of pursuing unrealistic goals for the energy sector, we must prioritize American competition to foster energy dominance and independence by continuing the offshore leasing program. We can work together to ensure a prosperous future for our nation, one that prioritizes American jobs, economic growth, and energy security. Our country's God-given resources are waiting to be responsibly tapped into to benefit all of our communities, and it is our duty to seize this opportunity for the betterment of the American people, energy independence, and our allies. I want to thank the witnesses again for their willingness to testify today, as well as what each of you do in service to the American people. We owe you a debt of gratitude. I now yield to my colleague from New York, Ranking Member Ocasio-Cortez, for her opening statement.